trading post.
Trading post. Yeah. There was no battle fought here during the Rev War of the colonial era. There was a battle fought here in the Civil War. But there's a bluff, there's Concrete Creek over there, and there's a bluff. And the walls of the fort would have been a square right here. And it would have been wooden, palisaded like big toothpicks. There were 3 buildings in the fort, and there were trade goods for Indians. And Catawba and Cherokee would come down and they would portage deer skins, hundreds of thousands of deer skins, and they would camp around the fort. It was garrisoned by 12 colonial troops and 4 enslaved Africans. And USC did an archaeological dig here about 3 or 4 years ago for a whole summer. And I watched them dig. It was really neat to find them. There were dig holes all over the place. And they found the cellar of the fort right over here. And we can walk over there if you want. I can show you the cellar. You can see the outline of the cellar. And in the cellar, they found jugs and pots and earthenware still there. They found a ring over here like this, a signet ring. And it had a Scottish lion on it. And it was right over there.
Wow.
They found a piece of glass with a sailing ship on it. A broken piece of glass with a ship under sail, a wooden ship. A lot of European ceramics. But what I find interesting are trade beads. They found lots of trade beads. What are trade beads? They're just little round beads with holes in them, and they're like little marbles, brightly painted. And the Indians love them. The Native Americans loved them. They would.
We stole Manhattan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But they found these trade beads all through here, and these trade beads are made in Venice, Italy, which is amazing travel. That's a story in itself. Some are. Also, in January of 1865, during the Civil War, 750 enslaved Africans and Confederate troops, they dug a trench line about a half a mile west of here. And the trench line, you can see the trenches. See that mound? That's a trench line. See the trench line? It cuts right through the fort. See the hump? That's the earth from the trench. The earth, it's called an earthwork. The earth has been worked by man. So it never had an official name. It was just called the Congaree Earthworks. Right there. And it would be garrisoned by Confederate soldiers, about 2,500 of the Confederate Army of Tennessee. And the Federal Army of Tennessee was on the other side at 77. Interstate 77 is about a mile that way. And they would have lined up and charged. And they tried to get across the creek here, but it's too steep. And so the Confederates fired into the Federals, and they had to charge towards the old State Road Bridge. The Confederates had artillery here. The Federals had cannon on that side as well. And obviously this place must have been shelled heavily, because when the USC School of Archaeology dug here, they found exploded cannonballs here. And they found them stuck in the earthworks, where it hit the earthwork and exploded. So this is a neat story here. This big ditch right here, the bridge, this is my working theory. Rivers move, they're dynamic. I think the Congaree River must have been there in 1718, because the fort's right here. That would have been access to a big river, and you could portage your deer skins down to Georgetown or Charlestown. And you could bring boats and periagas up here from Georgetown and Charlestown and port right here. This would have been a port. I might be wrong, because the creek, there's a bluff, and then it turns south for about 4 miles. That's a long way to go for a canoe. So I think that river must have been right here. At the end of 4 years in 1722, the fort was not needed anymore. The Indians had been pushed back towards Saluda, South Carolina. So the Indian threat was not as real. So the settlers were given anything they wanted in the fort, and the garrison was dismissed, and they were given anything they wanted in the fort. So all this would have been started clear cutting for miles around. You would have plantations here for miles around. And that's where the Gallman Colemans show up in the 1730s. And we're gonna, a couple hundred feet beyond that wood line is Gallman Coleman property. What, 200-300 acres? A land grant, and you're gonna stand right on it. So, but the Colemans would have known about this area, would have been here, or would have swam in that creek, or would have got water in that creek. Because that's a beautiful creek. It originates at Boiling Springs Church, just west of the town of Lexington. The springs are not boiling like hot water. The springs come out of the water behind Boiling Springs United Methodist Church off Cox Ferry Road. And the creek starts there and it meanders all through Lexington County and it ends right here. So the creek is a tannin creek, meaning it looks like sweet tea because of the leaves. It's dark because of the leaves, a tannin creek. And from my knowledge, that whole creek is full of Indian sites and villages all through here. So this was a highway for Indian trade and canoes bringing artifacts. But I'm gonna brush the snakes out and anything else, but we're gonna walk to the basement side and then we're gonna walk the earthworks, and I want you to look at the bluff.